I am 78 years old, and I am a prisoner in a house I spent 40 years trying to perfect. My name is Eleanor. If you walked up my driveway, you would see what looks like the American dream realized. I live in a sprawling 4-bedroom colonial at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac. It has a wraparound porch, a massive backyard where my children used to play, and a staircase that I once thought was the height of elegance. For decades, I called this my forever home. I told my husband, Richard, that I wanted to be carried out of this house in a box. I poured every spare cent we had into renovations, granite countertops, and lush landscaping. But today, as I sit here at my kitchen table, I realize that my forever home has become a gilded cage. I am 78. Richard has been gone for 5 years, and I am realizing that the very walls I built to protect my family are now the walls that are cutting me off from the world. I am sharing this because I see so many of you couples in your 60s and early 70s clinging to houses that no longer fit the reality of your bodies or your lives. You tell yourself that you're independent because you're staying put. You tell yourself that you're keeping the family hub alive for your grandkids. But I am 78, and I am here to tell you that there is a very fine line between staying put and getting stuck. I ignored the warnings. I ignored the subtle signs that this house was becoming too much for me. And now I am facing the most terrifying choice of my life. Do I stay here until a crisis forces me out? Or do I admit that my dream has become a nightmare? Let me take you back to when Richard and I were 65. Our youngest had just moved out, and the house felt quiet for the first time in 30 years. Our financial advisor suggested we downsize. He showed us a lovely, modern condo in the city, one level, walk in showers, near the shops and the doctor's office. I was insulted. I told him, I'm not old enough for a condo. I have my garden. I have my memories here. I viewed moving as a form of surrender. I thought that by staying in the big house, I was staying young. Richard wanted to move, but I fought him on it. I used the grandkids as an excuse. Where will they sleep when they visit? I'd ask. So we stayed. We spent $60,000 that year putting on a new roof and refinishing the basement. We were investing in our future, but we weren't investing in our safety. We were investing in an anchor. The first crack in the dream happened 3 years ago. It wasn't a big fall. It was just a slip on the back porch while I was carrying a tray of lemonade for my daughter. I didn't break anything, but for the first time, I felt a flash of genuine fear. I realized that if I had gone down, I was at the back of the house where no one could hear me. I didn't tell my children. I didn't even tell Richard. I just started avoiding the back porch. Then Richard's health began to fail. He couldn't make it up to our master bedroom on the second floor. For the last 6 months of his life, we lived in the living room. We had a hospital bed parked next to the piano. Our beautiful home had shrunk to 300 square feet because the other 3,000 square feet were inaccessible to a man in a walker. After he passed, the house became a monster. I am 78, and I spend my days managing a property that I can no longer maintain. The lawn service costs a fortune. The heating bill for rooms I never enter is staggering. But the financial cost isn't the worst part, it's the emotional isolation. Because I insisted on staying in this secluded neighborhood, I have to drive to see anyone, and my night vision is failing. Every time the sun goes down, I feel the walls closing in. My neighbors are young families who are busy with their own lives. They wave, but they don't visit. I sit in this four-bedroom house surrounded by memories, and I realize that memories aren't very good company when you're lonely. I see you watching those home renovation shows, thinking about how to update your forever home. I want to tell you, stop. Stop looking at the backsplash and start looking at the thresholds. Look at the stairs. Look at the distance between your front door and your car. I thought I was being strong by staying. I was actually being stubborn. I was so afraid of looking old that I ended up becoming a prisoner to my own pride. I am 78 and I am realizing that a forever home is only a dream if you can actually live in it. If you have to fight your house every single day just to take a shower or get the mail, it's not a home anymore. It's an obstacle course. I remember my granddaughter asking me last week why I didn't just move closer to them. I gave her the usual excuses. The market is bad. I have too much stuff to pack. But the truth is, I'm scared. I'm scared that if I leave this house, I'm admitting that the best part of my life is over. I've tied my identity to these four walls, but by staying, I'm missing out on the life I could be having. I'm missing out on the walks in the park, the easy lunches with friends, the peace of mind that comes with a house that doesn't try to kill you every time it rains. I am 78 and I've spent 40 years protecting a house that is no longer protecting me. If you are 65 or 70, please do what I didn't have the courage to do. Look at your home through the eyes of the person you will be in 10 years. Don't wait for the fall. Don't wait for the crisis. Downsize while you still have the energy to choose where you go. Don't let your forever home become your final mistake. The most exhausting part of being 78 and alone in a house this size is the stuff. For 40 years, Richard and I were collectors. We collected fine china, heavy oak furniture, boxes of old tax returns, and a basement full of tools we haven't touched since the 90s. When we were younger, these things felt like evidence of a life well lived. They were our treasures. But now they feel like weights tied to my ankles. Every time I think about moving, every time I look at that lovely, manageable condo near my daughter, I look at the attic and I am paralyzed. I realize I am staying in a house that is too big for me simply because I am too tired to deal with the things inside it. I am letting inanimate objects dictate the quality of my final years. I see so many of you doing this. You tell your children, I'm keeping all this for you. You think you're leaving them an inheritance. But I am 78, and I've watched my friends pass away, leaving their children to spend months, sometimes years, sifting through a lifetime of clutter while grieving. It isn't a gift, it's a burden. Last month, my son came over to help me change a light bulb in the foyer, a task I can no longer do because I can't climb a ladder. He looked at the stacks of boxes in the garage and said, Mom, we don't want any of this, right? We want you to be safe. We want you to be where we can see you. It was a cold splash of reality. I was clinging to things in the name of family while my family was practically begging me to let the things go so I could be closer to them. The financial trap of the forever home is just as dangerous. I spent my life thinking that my home was my greatest asset, and in a way it is. But an asset you can't use is just a number on a piece of paper. I am house rich and cash poor. I have hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity tied up in these walls, while I worry about the rising cost of groceries and the price of the medication I need for my blood pressure. If I had downsized at 65, I would have a significant cushion in the bank. I could be traveling. I could be treating my grandkids to dinners. Instead, I am spending my golden years paying a plumber to fix a leak in a bathroom that no one has used in 3 years. I am a millionaire on paper, but I'm living like a pauper because I refuse to let go of a building. I see you in your 60s planning that $50,000 kitchen remodel. I want to grab your shoulders and ask you why. Is it because you love to cook or because you're trying to convince yourself that you'll be here for another 30 years? I wish I had taken that $50,000 and spent it on experiences. I wish I had spent it on a home that was designed for an older woman, not a young mother. I wish I had put in a walk-in tub when I was 60 instead of waiting till I was 78 and terrified of slipping every time I want to get clean. We spend so much time making our houses look beautiful for guests who rarely come, and so little time making them functional for the people who actually live there. The hardest thing I did this year was admit that I can no longer maintain my garden. I loved my roses. They were my pride and joy for 40 years. But this spring, I realized that the bending and the kneeling were no longer possible. I sat on my porch and watched the weeds take over, and I cried. It felt like my life was being reclaimed by the earth before I was even gone. But then my friend Clara, the one who moved into that boring condo years ago, called me. She told me about the community garden at her new place. She told me how she spent her morning drinking coffee with 3 other women while they tended to some potted herbs at waist height. No kneeling, no heavy lifting, just community and fresh air. I realized then that by clinging to my private garden, I had traded connection for a patch of dirt I could no longer touch. I am 78, and I am finally making the call to a realtor tomorrow. It is the most frightening thing I've ever done. It feels like I'm closing the book on the best chapters of my life. But I've realized that the house isn't the memory, Richard isn't in the floorboards, my children's childhoods aren't trapped in the wallpaper, they are in me. And if I stay here, I am going to wither away along with this property. I want to spend my remaining years being a grandmother, not a property manager. I want to live in a place where I'm not afraid of the stairs or the shadows. If you are watching this and you still have the strength to move on your own terms, please don't wait. Don't let your forever home become a weight that drags you down. A home is supposed to be a place that supports your life, not a place that demands your life. Look at your house today with honest eyes. Is it serving you or are you serving it? If you're spending more time worrying about the roof than you are enjoying your family, it's time to go. Don't wait until you're 78 and alone to realize that the most important renovation you can make is a move to a simpler life. Success in aging is about knowing when to let go. It's about having the wisdom to change your environment before your environment changes you. I spent 40 years building this house, and I am finally brave enough to leave it behind. I'm going to find a small place with a bright window and a door that's easy to open. I'm going to sell the treasures and keep the peace. Because at the end of the day, a home isn't a building, it's the feeling of being safe, being seen, and being ready for whatever comes next. Thank you for being part of this difficult conversation. If you've been struggling with the idea of leaving your forever home, or if you felt the burden of a house that's become too big, please leave a comment. Let's talk about how to make this transition with dignity. Like this video if you needed this push to prioritize your safety over your pride, and subscribe to hear more from someone who is finally learning that less really can be more. Now, go walk through your house. Really look at it and then ask yourself, is this where I want to be in 10 years? If the answer is no, you know what you have to do.